You know what's so wonderful about the Bordeaux region is it's filled with all of these chateaux. This is the gate and the wall of Chateau Cazeneuve in Bordeaux.
Hello, my name is Louis de Sabran-Ponteves. I am the owner of this castle. Now we are at the Cazeneuve Castle. It was from 11th century, and this part of the castle is 17th century. It's important because never sell from the 11th century, and all the castle are a lot of furniture inside.
The entrance halls are very long and they're beautifully decorated, and they lead you to the residence of the castle.
We are in the medieval kitchen of the castle with a very beautiful fireplace.
Lunch in the kitchen includes lots of local products. You know, dining in the kitchen is very popular. It's where everyone can meet and mingle, and it's just such a great conversational place.
Now we are in the room of my great-great-grandmother. And all the furniture are 20th century furniture.
What a beautiful room. It's large, and I love the usage of color and accents.
And now we are in the chapel in the castle. This is the chapel situated at the first floor of the castle. My children was baptized in this chapel. The first one 3 years ago. We are in the Henri IV bedroom with a beautiful bedroom. And you have got Louis XIV on horse. And on the chimney you have got Louis XIV too. This is Louis XIII furniture, Louis XIII. Because before Louis XIII there are no more furniture inside castle.
This is an inspiration for a lot of decorators. I love all the design details. Each room has its own personality. The design patterns are exquisite.
Okay, my name is Louis de Sabran-Ponteves. I am the owner of this castle. Now we are in the drawing room of the Queen Margot. Like you can see, all the furniture is Louis XV furniture.
Visitors are invited to tour the castle for a small fee of 15 euros.
The grandfather of Louis XIV is the King of France, Henri IV. And you've got a beautiful portrait of him at 23 years old.
I love this picture of Queen Margot on the wall.
Okay, just in front of you, you have got a beautiful tapestry. The flank tapestry will be produced in the north of France, and you have got the Queen Margot on this tapestry. This is the 16th century.
These pristine rooms offer a lot of inspiration. The courtyard is open, sunny, and generous in size. The castle is surrounded by beautiful grounds.
We're at the Grotte de la Reine, the Queen's Margot's cave in Chateau Cazeneuve. The specificity of this region is that the Ciron goes into limestone gorges, and so it's underneath, and it's covered by a lot of trees, especially very ancient forests. And this microclimate will allow the development of noble rot in Sauternes due to the difference of temperature of the Ciron and the Garonne River.
Chasing wild ass, oh, it's not what you're thinking. It's a narrative of my travel around the world. I have interspersed photos and aromatic recipes, which allows you to dream, discover, and rediscover these great destinations around the world. The title of the book came about while we were chasing jackasses in Kutch Wild Ass Sanctuary in Gujarat, India. And I thought that was a great title for the book. This is food for the soul. Not only does it allow you to dream, it's adventure, it's history, it's culinary, it's culture, with a sense of humor to spice it up. Chasing wild ass is a celebration of life. You have to live each day as if it's your last. Remember, my world is your world, so get up, get out, and travel! What a fantastic day here at Chateau Olivier. And I'm standing with Alex de Bethman, and he is the proprietor of this incredible chateau and the vineyards and everything here. I think he owns everything here. It's wonderful. And you make the best wines. Talk about the history of the chateau.
Well, the history of the chateau, the first stones date back to the 12th, 13th century, where the chateau was more of a hunting lodge. And at that time, the region of Bordeaux, Aquitaine, belonged to the British, and it has a lot of history. So the son of Henry II, the Black Prince, used to come on the estate and hunt. Even today, we organize hunts for deers and wild boar that seem to appreciate our grapes at the wrong time of the year. And then another period that was really important was in the 15th century. In 1510, the original owner, the Seigneur Chateau of Olivier, decided to fortify the castle because he was concerned that the British would come back to Bordeaux. So there are 3 round towers and 1 square, and today what is remaining is 1 round, 1 square.
Right.
And it's also at that time that he put in place the moat.
But it was continuously being built.
Continuously being built. And then another big period was the 18th century, the century of Enlightenment, where basically the decision was made to make the castle the centerpiece of the estate. So you had 8 alleys going in all directions. And it's at that time that they built these buildings on the side that create a larger court that enabled to accede to the royal court. And then people would go through the castle, go to the drawbridge, and then coming to the private gardens of the owner at that time.
Well, I think this whole thing is, you know what I love also? The canopy. As you drive into the property, you go through the wilderness, and the canopy is just so impressive. I was really impressed when I came through. I thought, my God, I feel like I'm in Mississippi or somewhere.
And that was one of the original alleys back in the 18th century.
Yeah, and you had 5 of them.
And we had 8.
8?
Yeah.
Wow, wow. How fabulous is this? But then you have the forest, and you have the vineyards.
Correct.
And then you also have the pine trees.
And we also have the pine trees. So roughly the estate is 550 acres.
Wow.
And the vineyard is only 150. So the rest is pine trees, you know, this grassy area that you see here, and a wild forest.
This is a great ground for picnics, I would think, or weddings.
It is. We do rent it out for weddings.
And this is a private dwelling?
It is a private dwelling. The estate's been in the family since 1886.
Wow.
It was purchased by my father's great-grandmother, and it's been in the family ever since.
That's their legacy.
That is their legacy.
I think it's fantastic. And you know, when you come to France and you learn all about the wines, you know. I mean, the fact that you have pickers, you have the people who are sorting, and then it goes into the next process. Talk about the process of winemaking.
The process of winemaking, Well, basically everything at Chateau Olivier is hand-picked. Everything goes into baskets, then into crates. And our objective is to really preserve the berries in the best sanitary conditions as possible. Then it is brought to be destemmed, and there's a couple sortings that occur there. And that's the same for the red wines and white wines. Then for white wines, what happens is that the berries are put into a press. This press goes through a 4-hour cycle, where every half hour we press a bit more, get the juice, and the juice goes into a vat. And then a couple days later, when things start to settle, this juice goes into the barrels.
Wow.
The red wines is different. You got the berries, and the whole berry goes into the vat. They're slightly crushed, and what happens in the vat is that the skin and the pulp floats to the top and creates what we call a chapeau, a hat. And after fermentation, what we do is we start extraction. And the objective of the extraction is to pull out color and pull out tannins.
Fascinating.
And then that goes into the barrels for aging for roughly 16 months.
And some wines age for 5 years or 10 years or so?
Well, Bordeaux is known for wines that last a lot longer than that. The white wines, we usually say, a good time to start drinking them is 7 years, and you have some red wines that are 20 or 30 years old.
Wow, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. But then the taste.
Yes, because even in the bottle, the wine evolves.
Right.
So, when the wine is younger, you can serve it on certain types of food, and as it evolves, it goes better with other types of foods.
But you were born into this, so your whole knowledge of wine is something that's been passed on.
It has been, yes.
Which is a wonderful experience, as opposed to going to a school and, learning it that way. This is in your blood.
It has been.
The wine is in your blood.
Yes, it is.
It's another way to describe it. And I think that, when I think of wines and I think of France, I think of French wines as being something really extraordinary, something that everybody loves to drink. It's devouring this incredible, it's like a bouquet. It's all of this, as we were walking through, the place where they were storing them in barrels and the vats, and the bouquet was just amazing. I said you should make perfume out of it. Just capture the essence.
That's the part that you won't get on film.
Exactly.
That's what you have to come here.
Absolutely.
And experience it for yourself.
This is such an incredible experience. I mean, just being here, the sun is out, and the weather also depends on the grapes, or the grapes depend on the weather.
Yes.
Because if you have dew, or not dew, but if you have, frost?
Mildew.
Yeah, all those things you have to take into consideration. So generally, what is the percentage that is, preserved or used for actual wine in terms of all the grapes that you select?
Well, we spend a lot of time during the course of the year. We do green harvests. So when we think that the load factor is too important, we'll cut some of the grapes. During the veraison, this is a time when the red grape, which is green, that turns red. If we see that there are some grapes that are far behind in maturing, we'll cut those down. So usually everything that we try to harvest, we try to make wine out of it.
Yes, absolutely. And why not? That's the whole point.
It's the whole point, yeah.
We got to sell it.
Yeah, so basically what we do during the course of the year is we're trying to help nature out. Obviously, nature, the climate, the weather, we don't control that.
But I think it's a science, It really, from all the technical things that you do, I think it's a science.
I like to say it's more of an art. Everything that has to do in the vineyard is an art. Everything that's in the vat room, there's now a lot of technology, and that's more the science side.
Well, that's what I was referring to, where they, it's tasting, and the most amazing thing to me is when wine reviewers will talk about wine, and they talk about it has lemon, it has orange, it has peach, and whatever. And I'm not a connoisseur of wine, so I don't know this, but I know what I'd like in terms of something really good or something bad. But it's amazing. I met a wine reviewer some years ago, and I said, how do you make this stuff up?
The hardest thing when you taste wine is being able to express what the senses that you feel.
Exactly.
That is the most difficult thing.
That's like the nose.
It is the nose.
Yeah. It's like in perfume. It's the same thing.
It's an art.
Yeah, that is an art and a lot of experience too. But what happens if by chance they're saying the wrong thing? Like, for instance, there is no peach or there's no berry or whatever, that they're getting from the tabouas. What happens then?
What happens then? I got no idea what happens then. It won't be wine.
That's a good answer. That's fantastic. So Alex, tell me about the grapes and the differences.
Well, on the whites we have 3 types of grapes. We got Sauvignon Blanc, Sémillon, and Muscadelle. And basically when we assemble, one of the things that you have to understand in Bordeaux is one of the reasons that we assemble is because the soil base that we have is very different. We have 13 different types of soil base at Chateau Olivier. It goes from gravel, clay, limestone, sand, and everything in between.
That's a tabouas.
That's a terroir. And as you can understand, what grows well on gravel does not work well on clay.
Right.
So we assemble, not because we want to be different, is that we don't have a choice.
Right.
It's not like when you're in Argentina or you're in California where you've got large stretches of land that is exactly identical.
Exactly.
So on the whites, like I said, we have Sauvignon Blanc, Sémillon, and Muscadelle. We're roughly 78% Sauvignon Blanc, 20% Sémillon, and 2% Muscadelle. And for the reds, we're Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Pt2. And when we assemble, we're roughly 55% Cabernet Sauvignon, 5% Pt2, and the balance would be Merlot.
But I think the other thing that's interesting here is that you don't have the terraces that you see in the Douro Valley. You have a slight hill, which is a little different. And in terms of growth, does that really make a difference in terms of the land being rather flat compared to the terraces?
Well, one of the things you have to understand is that all these vineyards were created during the glacial periods, or the runoff of the water during the glacial periods. So all the heavy elements stayed at the top of the hill. So gravel at the top of the hill, and at the bottom of the hill would be sand.
Right.
A bit like in the States, Grand Canyon,
Right.
Big blocks on top, sand at the bottom. So yes, the soil base is very different, and they can be very different within 6 feet of each other.
Oh, that's it. Well, yeah. And that's the trick, that you have to know which is growing what and the results.
So the result of the wine today is really the result of the identification of the soil base and all the decisions that have been made over the last 20 or 30 years on what type of grape to plant on which soil. Okay, so Chateau Olivier basically produces 2 labels, the Chateau Olivier, which is the main label, and then our second label is called Dauphin d'Olivier. And Dauphin is basically in a deck of cards. It's the Jack. Mm-hmm. It's a son of the king, and that's our open market brand. Now, when you take a look at Bordeaux, we've been very fortunate over the last couple of decades of having some very good vintages, exceptional vintages. To name a few, you had 2000, 2003, 2005, 2009, 10. And 15 and 16 are also remarkable.
What's the best year so far?
The best year, it's very tough because all those vintages are way above average. And these wines, we're going to be enjoying them for the next 30 years.
A wet moat surrounds the chateau, and there's also a drawbridge that leads to the chateau. This is where the art and science of making wine takes place. Chasing Wild Ass. Oh, it's not what you're thinking. It's a narrative of my travel around the world. I have interspersed photos and aromatic recipes, which allows you to dream, discover, and rediscover these great destinations around the world. The title of the book came about while we were chasing jackasses in Kutch Wild Ass Sanctuary in Gujarat, India. And I thought that was a great title for the book. This is food for the soul. Not only does it allow you to dream, it's adventure, it's history, it's culinary, it's culture, with a sense of humor to spice it up. Chasing Wild Ass is a celebration of life. You have to live each day as if it's your last. Remember, my world is your world, so get up, get out, and travel! You know what's so wonderful about the Bordeaux region is it's filled with all of these chateaus.
My name is Laurent Lebrun. I'm the general manager and winemaker at Chateau Olivier. And here we are in one of the oldest blocks of Cabernet Sauvignon we have on the property. And this is, I think, one of the most beautiful areas of Chateau Olivier. Of course, we have a beautiful castle, and the winemaking facility is one of the best in the world. But here is really what makes our vineyards and our wine special. You can see the quality of the soil is quite unique. It's a mix of gravel and clay, and the combination of this type of soil in our very mild climate in Bordeaux makes the quality of the grape quite unique. This soil will enable us to get the perfect ripeness without having too much heaviness in our wines, and the right amount of tannins and softness, and making the special style we like to make in Bordeaux.
First, they pick them, basket them, and then they're off to the winery. There is an art and science to making wine. The courtyard allows an open space with a large, pristine patch of grass. The wine production facilities are located next to the open garden. These wooden barrels are where the wine is stored. You know, making wine can take from 18 months to several years. The wooden barrels are used 3 times before they're sold to producers of spirits. The spirit producers love these wooden barrels because they have the essence of the wine. Now, these enormous vats are also used to blend wines. We are walking to Chateau Olivier to share a special lunch which is prepared by the house chef. Now, what could be better than having lunch and conversation with new friends in the chateau? Well, Alex, this is wonderful. I love this whole experience, and we're going to go back and share it with everybody.
Well, thank you very much for stopping by.
Yeah. Chateau Olivier. I finally said it right. I hope you had as much fun as I did here in Bordeaux. Bordeaux is where you get the best wines, the best sunshine, you know, everything blossoms. And what's better than great wine? Until next week, I'm Jon Haggins, the GlobeTrotter. I'll see you then. Hope you had as much fun as I did. Look forward to seeing you next week at another colorful destination.